What it is, cucks this, it's your boy the Hater, and it's time for a very special video. I put my email up on the screen on the last video, and a bunch of you heeded the call. There was several of you who emailed me about the Drew McIntyre CM Punk fan fiction pornography. Now apparently, this is actually a book that you can buy. You understand me? I thought this was like some long post someone put on like Reddit or something. This is actually a book that was written by someone for people to purchase so they can read about the gay adventures of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre bumping uglies. You know what I'm saying? Good for them. Now, I want to thank everyone that helped me out by finding this, and also one of you, this is going to be a future video, probably tomorrow. Someone sent me a video of a song that we're going to review. Boy, you guys are going to love this one. I actually already heard it, and I got a lot to say. But with that being said, let's get to today's video, all right? So apparently, this individual is someone who writes fan fiction and monetizes it. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but you're actually allowed to do this, right? This is part of what's called the Fair Use Act, right? The Fair Use Act allows for people to use the name, image, and likeness of even real people if it's done for parody purposes. In this case, they're not really using real people because Drew McIntyre and CM Punk are not real people. They're like, you know, public figures, and in many ways, they're fictional characters. But nevertheless, the point is exactly that, cucks this. The reality is that this individual wrote this book. Their name is Kayla Faber, which obviously is a pun on kayfabe. I gotta respect it. Now, that being said, I don't personally have anything wrong with people wanting to read this. You know what I mean? I get it. There's a lot of gay people out there, and they like fantasizing about men that they might find attractive. Good for y'alls! The issue that I have with this is the impact that it has on wrestling, right? People have this idea already and historically that wrestling is kind of gay. And a lot of wrestling fans have fought through this, saying like, no, it's not gay, it's not homoerotic. And wrestling has capitalized on this by having characters like Billy and Chuck, you know, playing up to that. This is all fun and games, and so is this book. I'm not saying this is like a hateable thing. However, it should be noted, cucks this, that this person is writing these things and they're thinking through scenarios involving two wrestlers falling in love and presumably having a lot of butt sex. Now, good for y'alls again, but the reality is that, in my opinion at least, this situation kind of ruins wrestling for a lot of the people that do not watch it for any sexualized notion, right? Furthermore, I thought that the general opinion of the neckbeards was that the Attitude Era was bad because women were objectified. But apparently nobody gives a rat's ass if Drew McIntyre is putting CM Punk to sleep with a claymore right up the ass. You understand me? That's perfectly fine, that kind of objectification. I'm not here to sing the woes of Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, but imagine being them. I mean, imagine being two straight dudes. They're probably friends, at least to some extent. They're at least co-workers. They have to work together. They have to cooperate. They have to collaborate, right? Because they're not co-workers like, oh, they work in the same office. They're co-workers that have to go out there and entrust their safety on each other, right? Imagine being them and then having a book written about you where you're gay, you know? Like, or where you're anything that you're not, really. It doesn't matter that you're gay or not. But imagine being CM Punk. He's a married man. I don't know if Drew McIntyre is married. I think he's married too. And imagine people getting off on you getting butt fucked, right? That's just weird. You know what I mean? It's just odd. But the Hater, being a fan of capitalism in most senses, understands that this must mean, obviously, because this person has written other books that I'm told have to do with WWE, like gay and lesbian fan fiction. So this person must be making some money off of this, right? They're not just I mean, maybe they're doing it for fun and making some money, kind of like the Hater, you know what I mean? Like, I don't do it for the money, but I do make some money from the Hater channel, right? Which I enjoy spending, motherfucks, or investing, motherfucks. So maybe this person's doing the same thing. But this speaks, just like it does for the Hater, that there is a market. There is a market for people who want to listen to the Hater. It's you guys. And there's a market for people that want to read a book called Someone Like You about CM Punk and Drew McIntyre getting down and dirty. In the book, CM Punk is also married, apparently, right? His name is Phil. One of them is named Phil. I read the blurb before anyone accuses me of reading this. You know what I'm saying? I read the blurb, the summary. One of them is named Phil Hansen. He must be CM Punk. And the other one is named Ian Galloway. Galloway, of course, being the real last name of Drew McIntyre, you know? And obviously you can just look at the cover art and you can clearly tell that it's CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. I mean, like, the CM Punk guy could be any grungy looking motherfucker, but the Drew McIntyre guy is like clearly Drew McIntyre, you know what I mean? So with all that being said, I mean, we find ourselves in a situation where basically, you know, for better or for worse, like, this thing exists now in the ether. Now, again, you know, I don't think we should judge each other if people like watching these things or reading these things. Hey, I mean, like, you know, that's all cool and everything, right? People, you know, there's gay people out there. The haters got no problem with the gay community. But what I do have a problem with is this normalization of taking straight people and just turning them gay, either in fiction or in other ways. You know, there's this weird obsession with people like wanting men to be open to like gay experimentation. And that's something that I do have an issue with because it's something that I didn't grow up around, right? And like everyone that I know basically is normal to some extent. But everybody that's growing up now, where basically the only thing that's changed is the fact that, like, you know, a bunch of people, a bunch of adults have tried to implement their agendas on children. You know, a bunch of these people that I know that are like of a different generation, a lot of them are on drugs, a lot of them are in therapy. You know what I mean? It can't be a coincidence, right? It's like if you confuse a child early, that's kind of the issue, right? So it's like this is an attempt to just take something straight, or two people that are presumably straight, Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, and just turn them gay for the sake of writing a book. It's honestly very strange. And while CM Punk and Drew McIntyre don't really have grounds to sue, because this is within the fair use doctrine, I mean, they might, because it's a little bit dicey, right? Like, this is not really a parody, right? It's not satire. This is just gay fan fiction, you know? So I can tell you this. If it were me, and I were like a wrestler or an actor or a public figure, like a real one, you know, that people know, and people wrote about me being gay, I'd be like, yo, first of all, number one, I don't really feel comfortable with you fantasizing about me, period, let alone fantasizing about me doing things that I don't want to do, right? I mean, again, presumably they're straight, right? So there you have it. I mean, it's kind of odd, and the fact that this thing has a market for it speaks volumes, not so much to the person making the content. I mean, it speaks to them too, obviously, but it also speaks volumes to general society, where they see like a Drew McIntyre CM Punk match, right? Because this is not like two random wrestlers. It's not like Lashley and Tozawa, right? It's Drew McIntyre and CM Punk because, like, they had this long-standing feud, and there is apparently this weird internet obsession with them being like gay. Like, some people, I guess, watched this feud and they thought this was some homoerotic stuff, you know? I personally didn't get any of this. I thought it was a pretty decent feud. You know, I mean, it was stupid because it was centered around a bracelet and a dog, but, you know, it was interesting in terms of like the bitter hate that they seem to feel for one another. I thought that translated very well on screen, right? It felt like these guys really do hate each other. So, you know, some people didn't see it this way, I guess, right? And this really goes to show that this like interpretive like dance that people do with fiction is getting out of hand. You know, like there's these terms that have popped up like headcanon and things like that. People are like, well, then my version of the story goes this way. That's fucking weird, man. You know, there is no your version of the story. There is the story, right? That's why these movies that end with like, oh, it's open to interpretation. It's like, shut the fuck up. Why? Why is it open to interpretation? Just end the story, cuck. You know, classic stories are better than stories that are left open for interpretation. You know, I mean, some stories, like Inception, for example, I thought that the ending was really clear, and a lot of people are like, oh, it could be interpreted this way. I guess it could be, but to me, like those stories, and I think to everyone really, those stories are like, there's a clear ending, you know, there's a clear philosophy of this, and a lot of people just miss it, and they throw in their interpretation. That's fundamentally different, right? So a lot of people have these like weird takes on, you know, fan fiction, where they go and they just kind of like they fantasize like it's fan fiction because it's supposed to be like from fans, but it's also, you know, fantastical, right? It's like shit that doesn't happen, you know. And the only question I have, and I think I know the answer to it, is like, if you want to write a book about two men, one of whom is married and turns out he's gay all along, like, do that, you know. That might make a very compelling story. I think it would even reach a bigger mainstream audience, right? But the reason that they're obviously using, like, you know, stand-ins for Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. The obvious reason is because they, Kayla Faber, they want to capitalize on the fact that, not that CM Punk and Drew McIntyre exist, because then, you know, you could just make like, oh, Brad Pitt fucked Michael B. Jordan up the ass. I think there's more of a market for that because those people are more famous. I think they're particularly trying to monetize the overlap of the gay neckbeard wrestling fan, right, with people that read, which probably is not a big market because I don't think a lot of neckbeards read. I think they mostly jack off to hentai and things like that. But nevertheless, right, it's like, it means that there's clearly a market. There's a subset of wrestling fans who are in it for the homoerotic elements. And this, I believe, provides evidence that people will find the homoerotic element even when one doesn't exist. Because they're going out, they're setting forth, they're starting their quest with the intention to find homoeroticism, so therefore they find it, right? That's all there is to it. It's weird and it's odd. Not because of the homoerotic element, but because why are you going to wrestling and doing this, right? They did the same thing with My Little Pony. The neckbeard community successfully co-opted a show made for little girls, and grown men started watching it, and then they started having demands. I want this horse to have this personality. Like, and people had to listen to them because their demographic was so big. Now, again, I could give a shit about My Little Pony. I'm not a little girl. But if I were a little girl, I'd be like, excuse me, neckbeard hentai consumer, please don't ruin the thing that I like. And I feel the same way about wrestling. I feel that these neckbeard consumers have ruined wrestling. Not just with this as an example, but even with pushing people like Daniel Bryan, you know? There you go. That's all there is to say about this. Look forward to my Monday Night Raw review later tonight. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow, depending on how I feel, cucks. And we'll go from there. And with that being said, go fuck your mothers up in this bitch.